In this session, we will hear from Béat Koszinowski. He is a property and casualty insurance and sales professional at the Buckner Company. Since joining Buckner in 2002, Béat has grown to be the top sales professional in the firm since managing the largest book of the business across all 7 offices. Way to go! He is the first and only person in the 86-year history of the company to receive the Diamond Circle of Excellence, a prestigious performance-based sales award. He was also named the top 100 producer by the Insurance Business America in 2017, 2018, 2020, and 2021. Please join me in welcoming Béat Koszinowski.
Good morning, everybody. I've got an interesting name. I was named after a patron saint of Switzerland, Saint Beatus, and they shorten it to Béat, but in the US it's pronounced Béat, so I always have to explain my name. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be here with you. Why would you be here and hear my story? Well, that's exactly what I asked myself when Kyle and the University of Utah reached out to me to come and do a presentation here. You see, I'm not a public speaker. This is actually my first event talking in front of a group like you. I usually just deal with clients and boards, and I'm not going to lie to you, this is kind of a daunting task to speak in a group like you. Mainly because in my career as a sales professional for about 20 years, I've had my fair share of really good presentations and then some presentations that were, rather not great. So I started thinking when I was planning for this, what could I provide to you, a person in your stage of your career, that could have been beneficial for me 20, 30 years ago when I was looking to make a move into the sales career. So I want to talk to you about hindsight lessons, things I wish I would have known when I started in insurance. I grew up in a small village in the middle of nowhere in Switzerland. My parents ran a small bed and breakfast hotel. They worked really hard, they were very frugal, and life was pretty good. At 4th grade in Switzerland, children get separated on 2 academic tracks. One is an apprenticeship track, and then the other one is a more academic track to go on to university to study. Because I wasn't very good at sitting still or paying attention, I was left in the apprenticeship track. Life was good, all the way until about 15. At 15 in Switzerland, you're required to pick a trade. It's an important certificate in Switzerland. You can't be gainfully employed if you don't pick a trade in a profession. You sort of get pigeonholed. Everybody around me knew what they were going to do off the apprenticeships, academic tracks. I had no idea what I was going to do. So I started thinking. And because my parents were in the restaurant hotel business, I thought I was going to go to hotel management school, to do that as a career. But before I could do this, I had to do an apprenticeship. So I picked an apprenticeship to become a chef, and I moved on to hotel management school and graduated. When I graduated, I landed a pretty good job at a large international hotel in Switzerland. I joined the company there and started working. Well, in a couple of months, I realized I really hated the career I built for myself and was a little shocked and appalled because I really didn't know what I was going to do. Lucky for me, I had met a beautiful American girl from Utah during my time at culinary school. And she suggested, why don't you come to Utah and work at one of the resort hotels? They got great skiing, and you can work there and be with me. So I moved to the United States, came to Utah, and worked at a resort hotel. Well, big surprise, working in that line of business, I still didn't like it. As a matter of fact, I didn't make enough money to pay for skiing. So I felt devastated. I figured I'd never going to ski again in my life. In between jobs, I was offered a job as a life insurance agent. I'm like, what, me? I could be a life insurance agent. So I welcomed the opportunity, joined a large national company as a life insurance agent. I worked really hard, worked my guts out, but within about a year, I owed more money in overhead expenses. They had to participate in expenses than I made in commission. I did learn how to prospect, cold call, do client building, so that was something of use, but I wasn't gainfully employed. Luckily, my wife had a good job, but we had a baby on our way, and I needed to have a job I could be gainfully employed. So we moved back to Switzerland. I joined my parents' bed and breakfast and worked there. I felt like a huge failure, but I was too embarrassed to tell anybody, and I just kept plugging on. My dad, not much of a talker, he sensed I wasn't very happy at his job, and he introduced me to his business insurance agent in Switzerland. And coincidentally, they were looking for an agent in their regional headquarters or office in Interlaken to hire a sales agent, and I applied for the job. Back then, it was pretty state-of-the-art for what they were doing, that company. They had an extensive evaluation process. They do all sorts of testing and interview, and I had to go to Zurich to go do that testing. And I found out a lot of agents didn't make the cut because of the rigorous testing. But the things that actually, I learned in Utah as a failed life insurance agent, made this whole gauntlet, go by real easy. The only comment or negative comment I got from the coaches there was like, I was not to ask people in Switzerland, how are you? Because in Switzerland, it's somewhat considered offensive to ask a person, how are you, if they don't know you that well. So to this day, I still don't ask people that I know really well, how are you? In a business setting, I ask them, how is your business? I found that people rather talk about their businesses than about their personal stuff, especially if you don't know them personally. So I started working at the Swiss insurance company, and things were really good. They had a very stringent process of educating you, teaching you. They're very Swiss, and I really welcomed that opportunity, and I fit right in. They had weekly sales meetings. Again, they could have felt like a gauntlet, but to me, what I've learned in my past failures actually that made the gauntlet look easy. The company was very high on customer service and claim service, and that's something I really welcome. If people buy insurance, they want to have a good claim service, and it's something that really is with me to this day and has helped me tremendously in my career. The company also had an assistant manager, a general manager, and he was trying to make sure we were all doing our job. I was worried that he had an alternative motive because he's the brother of the general manager. We called him the henchman. And so he wanted to go on a joint meeting with me to go do some client visits. And I wasn't going to say no to it, but I made sure that if you're going to go on the client appointments, there was going to be some strings attached. So I had a lot of mountain farmers in remote areas that were my clients. And the farmers would get up 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to tend their cattle, and then to be ready to meet. So I picked a full schedule with the furthest away mountain farmer. He had to hike to his place at 5 o'clock in the morning. The guy thought I was a stud because I wanted to meet with him at 5 o'clock in the morning. The sales manager, or the assistant GM, having to get up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to come with me on my client visits never took me up on the offer to go visit my great clients. So I like my clients, I liked helping them, but I felt like the company where I was working had a pretty low ceiling for growth. They wanted you to be in sales, and there was no upward mobility. They also wanted me to present certain insurance products that I wasn't really necessarily great for my clients. But part of the compensation and bonuses were hinged on the types of things I would sell to my clients. I didn't really like that. I was looking for a new opportunity. Thanks to my connections with Utah, I was introduced to Terry Buckner back in 2001. He had just acquired some agencies and was looking to grow his company with some new sales agents. So I interviewed with him, and we took a leap of faith, and I moved back to Utah with my daughter and my wife. So lessons I learned at the beginning, I learned to be uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable. And working hard usually pays off, but not when you're working hard at the wrong things. Of course, I started working at Buckner. I really didn't know much about the Utah business insurance world. I barely had the command of the English language, but I just figured that out on as we went. But the things I learned at the insurance company in Switzerland, life insurance company, some of the things I learned at hotel management school, I started working at Buckner. And the first thing I did is I interviewed some senior salespeople and asked them, what would you do if you were in my shoes to be successful? And I created a list of things that they recommended. So one person said, create a list of 100 connections that are potential insurance buyers. Being Swiss and conservative, I doubled the goal. So I did 1,000 X-dates. Little did I know, I compromised quality for quantity, and in hindsight, that was a mistake. But here we are. They said, pick a specialty niche that you can be an expert in. 3 things, so the clients get to know you and know that you know what you're talking about. So I picked nutraceutical, manufacturing, and construction. They say, get to know underwriters. Those are the people that we try to get them to provide insurance. And make sure they trust you and like you, and don't burn any bridges with them. Learn what they want to write. So you actually have a willing buyer. You've got to find a place to place it, and make sure you know who likes to do what. And also, one of the hardest lessons I learned was actually with my father-in-law when we went and visited a client, and he's like, look at all the yard here and all the trucks and everything is very dilapidated. He said, we're just leaving. And I'm like, why are we leaving? He's like, this is not a good company. They're very shoddy operation. We won't have a place for them to put insurance with. And if we did, the underwriter would be very cross with us because we sold them a bad client, right? And so I learned to make sure we work with companies that are honest and good businesses, so we're not sending bad business to the underwriters. They also recommended I become an insurance and sales scholar. So those are the things they told me. I did not gain much traction with manufacturing on pharmaceutical, not because I didn't try hard, but my company had no markets, we had no products, no resources. I was provided with a list of contractors and a list of contractors I wasn't supposed to call on, because I was told in our office that we have some senior individuals that are producers that have the market cornered on these big construction companies. So don't call on those. But here's a list of discarded leads that you can call on that nobody else wants. And I wasn't very happy, but I figured I'd give it a try. So I started calling the crap list. That's what they called it. and lo and behold, I started making appointments and actually landing sales. So I found out that maybe those experts didn't really go as diligently on that list as they should have. And so I started to build my book of business with the discarded list of contractors. Having found construction insurance really helped me set a platform and launch my career. I later on joined a local association with contractors, became a committee member, a board member, and things were great. I was about $25,000 away from hitting a major threshold. You have all these $1 million producer goals. And I was like, always wanted to be this threshold. And I was $25,000 away that year from hitting it. And things looked really good. Then in 2008, the recession hit. Oh, I'm going to talk about what I learned first at Buckner, sorry. Just because your company has a product or service for you to sell does not mean you will be successful at it. It's important that your client or customer has a need for it. And how does your company set itself apart from the competition? You're only as good as your team that's backing you up. Is your company vested in you and your success? Some companies hire salespeople by the dozen only for you to wash out in 6 to 12 months. So be aware of the lure of an easy sale or easy buck, and that you can make lots of money. Don't criticize or turn down opportunities like the discarded lead list before you had a chance to investigate it. And get involved in the community and try to be exposed to your potential buyers in a non-sales environment, like on a committee, on a board, or at a charity. Now we're going to go to the recession. Call it riding the recession. It didn't really feel like riding. It felt like free falling. So in 2008, the recession hit. It was at the top of what I felt my career was. And because I was heavy in construction, half of my book disappeared. A lot of my clients went bankrupt or went out of business, and things weren't great at all. I still, to this day, feel very bad for a lot of people in businesses that lost their livelihood and couldn't recover. It was very devastating. Also, what happened in that time in 2009, a major court case came about that actually caused a lot of litigation against my clients, former or current clients, and that added insult to injury, having to deal with this. Didn't really make any money with a lot of these claims that we had, but I felt an obligation, compelled to help anybody that needed my help with a claim, to help them see through it. So during the recession, I actually learned 3 valuable things that are still sticking with me, and it's not on a slide. I learned to be as debt-free as possible and live well below my means. As a salesperson, sometimes you can make really, really good commissions, and sometimes you make no money. So I stuck with me for the rest of my life. But I found business owners usually live by the same doctrine. Fancy things to me are meaningless if you don't have the money to pay for it. And helping people during these hard times didn't really make me any money, but I gained a good reputation and trust of a lot of people that helped me build more relationships. Looking around, I considered myself lucky because I could rebuild my business. And my company, during the recession, recommended I go after larger, bigger, non-construction types of businesses. Knowing our limitations, I thought this was going to be a waste of time. So what I did is I doubled down on construction companies, and I went after construction companies that in previous years, when things were really great, probably wouldn't want to talk to me, but because money was tight and they were trying to cut costs, they were happy to talk to me, help them check their insurance, look for pricing and gaps, and so on and so forth. So I was able to land some good accounts in 2008, 2009, 2010. That are right now some of my best clients I have because of the things I did during those times. The 2008 rebuild didn't go as fast as I'd like it. One was the economy. Another thing I realized that some of my own personal shortcomings are holding me back. And I think this is great that you guys can learn all about the sales profession in an orderly fashion. I didn't have that luxury. And so I started doing what my family calls read a lot of self-help books. And there's no quick fix, especially a person like me. But slowly I started to implement those learnings, even if I had to read the book multiple times to kind of get some parts. In those times, a lot of my clients were being sued, and they hated the new case law and despised the litigators. In my claims dealings with my clients, I realized that a lot of those claims could have been avoided with just being strategic. And I tried to create a seminar, but I'm not an attorney, and I didn't have the confidence or the knowledge to really go in depth of this very complicated court case that happened in Utah. So I reached out to a defense law firm that I networked with, and I said, hey, I would love to do a seminar. And he's like, yeah, of course, it's good advertising for him. And I'm like, I'm going to bring in the villains, you know, good and the bad. And I reached out to the villain litigators to say, hey, would you guys be interested in doing a seminar with me? And I thought they would not be interested because they'd be educating the exact same people in that room that they were suing. To my big surprise, they agreed to do it. So one other thing I learned is don't assume somebody's not going to want to do something with you in a business setting unless you ask them for it and you let them make a decision. So we created the seminar, and it was supposed to be 60 minutes. 60 minutes, and I figured 20 minutes for each attorney, 20 minutes for me to talk about insurance. So I let the attorneys go first, and usually only let people talk. 20 minutes go really fast. I was usually left with 5 minutes to conclude the presentation. I wasn't very happy. I thought they were taking my time from the stage to shine and talk about insurance. Little did I know that was actually the best thing that could have happened, because being in the room, setting up the seminar, and these professionals, attorneys, mentioning me in a positive way as an expert was much more beneficial than me babbling on about insurance coverages. So if you say you're good at something, you're usually a bragger. If a professional or a colleague says you're good at it, you know, you're an expert. So started the rebuild and create more opportunities. During the recession, a lot of companies were cut cost and employees. Our company was no different. We had to reduce workforces and cut cost. My small team that I had sort of imploded, and a colleague of mine, Missy McGlone, her department was you know, absolutely too. So they put the two of us together. Luckily, because the things I learned about being a bit more mindful in my business life, she and I started rebuilding our books of business. As a producer, I try to be the hardest worker on the team and not just drop on things on associates. So what I learned is the harder you work and the more you do in a meaningful way, the harder people will work with you and collaborate. So I try to be a fair producer, to do my own fair amount of work. Also, when I would win a prize or get a compliment or you know, win a major threshold, I'd always make sure that point it out that it's part of the team, it's not just me, and include them in the accolades. Mistakes, if you know, mistakes happen, and in previous years, if there was a mistake, I would sort of kind of like to go ballistic, which it's not very useful. And I learned that, you know, if we make a mistake, lose a sale, lose a customer, we've already lost a customer, lost a sale, I wasn't going to lose the relationship with an underwriter or an associate. So I usually reach out to a client and try to offer a solution and take responsibility and work through it. Because what I found is business people or people, they don't want excuses, they want solutions, they understand that mistakes happen. School of hard knocks lesson. You know, what goes up may come crashing down. But the things, you know, the biggest gains that you can sometimes accomplish is during tough times. Use changes in the market to adapt and create solution for your client. And it's not on here, but I like it. Don't be a sponge of bad news and spread it to other people. Personal lessons I learned. Learn to help yourself. Everybody cares, but they usually don't care enough to help you when you need it the most. Maybe a little Swiss sarcasm here. Focus on you and your shortcomings. Also focus on yourself. Be an active listener and let people do the talking. Make sure you demonstrate empathy for their troubles and needs and want. One of the most important things I think I've learned, if it's important to your client, you make that a top priority for yourself. And what's in it? For the client. People hate to be sold, but they love to buy things they want. Become a better communicator with all parties you're dealing with. And then my rules of business is mistakes are opportunities to gain experience from and improve your process. Do you want to get to credit or do you want to get results? Focus on results. Be the hardest worker on your team, and no job or task should be beneath you. Be thankful and be sure to thank your team for their work in a genuine way on a regular basis. Be dependable and honor your word. Keep it simple and use examples that others understand. And I like to under-promise and over-deliver. And I'm going to finish this here with a little story. My son, this is my son Eli, and I ski in November. It was not this year. We just finished the ski day, and he asked if he could go ski on this hill in the parking lot. And what I admire about this here is he's not complaining about the crappy snow, or it's 4 o'clock, he's tired and wants to eat his chocolate in my car. He's like, I'm going to go ski. I'm like, okay, let's see it. So little caveat, you might think I'm a bad parent, but we're at Alta, so we're skiing. So he's not wearing his helmet, which he should usually, you know, but I thought we were in the parking lot. We're just skiing down this hill. So he hikes up there, and I got a video of it. He hikes up there. You see top, it's grass. He puts his ski on the side of the road. There's not a lot of cars, so he's fine. And I'm like, this ought to be interesting. I'm going to watch what's happening. And he skis across the grass. Been there, done that. But I'm like, okay, that's new. And he comes flying down and then proceeds to hit the hood of my car. So then I got out of the car and I was like, what were you thinking? He's like, well, I was going to try, there's this little lip you see. I was going to try to ski down and jump on your hood with my skis. I'm like, I'm glad he didn't. It just hit the front of my car. So sometimes things don't make sense. Go for the things that you want to do and have fun doing it. Thank you very much. Yes?
What's the biggest factor that you see in successful people in sales? Like a common denominator?
Actually, I did a survey recently, and there's a lot of studies you can do, or Gallup and some other tests that you kind of find attributes. And one thing I found is no salesperson is alike. So if you feel like you have shortcomings, I wouldn't just stop from trying it. And also there's different kind of areas in sales, like there's medical sales, there's insurance sales, business sales. So there's a lot of things. One thing I would tell you is don't be shy and just try it. And just to my story, I wasn't a really good life insurance salesperson, but I'm a pretty decent property and casualty salesperson. So yeah, just keep an open mind and venture into different companies and see what works for you. Thank you. Yeah?
I mean, you seem to like try a lot of different things before you eventually stuck with sales. So what was it that made you stay, and what was it that kept you motivated during those tough times?
Well, was it when I was trying to figure out the career, or when things went wrong in my sales business? Yeah. In my sales business? Well, I just don't like to lose. I hate to suck. I'm not going to give up. I'm just going to be the last one standing, and you put me down, I'll get right back up and just do it again and actually enjoy it. So, and that doesn't come like overnight. You just kind of build it. But the fun thing about like my career, my sales, and I think in business in general, you know, you just try to have an open mind and become a better person gradually, right? 20 years ago, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, I was a completely different person I'm today. I was like, oh, that's phony, that's fake. No, I'm just trying to evolve and level up every time I do something. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.